presentation of Dr. Rossana Henriques. Please.
Hello everybody, good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank ALLEA for the opportunity of being here today, and also to the Academy of Science of Lisbon for organizing such a wonderful meeting. So actually, I'm one of the Portuguese scientists that immigrated, so I'm more or less a confirmation of what Margarida talked, but in my case, my immigration was a little bit due to my scientific curiosity. And although I'm Portuguese, I work now in Spain. I'm a career track fellow at the CRAG. And, sorry. I think I did something wrong. So I was invited to talk about the challenge, demands, and perspectives, and what are the conditions for early career scientists in Europe. So I started to think how to address this issue, and what I've done was a kind of a summary of what has been my trajectory. So where did I start? Where did I go in between, and where am I today? So to give a perspective of what actually is to be a young career scientist in Europe. So I really don't see it from a Portuguese point of view. I see it from a point of view of a person that has been in 4 different countries and now is back in Europe after being in the US for a while. So I am a plant biologist. I started my PhD at the Faculty of Science under the supervising of Professor Maria Salomé Pais, that is here today. And I went then to the Max Planck Institute in a collaborative project where I started to give my first steps on what is plant molecular biology. And after being in Lisbon and arriving in Germany, I realized that the world was really much bigger than what I thought in the beginning. And the plant science, which I believe is a really interesting topic of scientific research, could be, developed in different places. So from my PhD, I moved to England and I changed a little bit the topic. I worked still in plant molecular biology, but I started to work on cell cycle and cell growth, and to understand that plants are a fascinating model. You can use them to study many different things. Although they are important from the agronomical point of view, my research path, let's say, has been focused more on the basic science. So how to use the special things in plants to understand basic processes, like cell division and cell growth. And after being for 3 years in the UK, and in a total, I put here actually 8 years in Europe, and then I put 7 years in the USA. And there is a reason why I did that, besides the fact that it's true, was that in the USA, you could be a scientist for 7 years. If you apply for a postdoc position in Europe, you get a 2-3 years contract project. It's very hard to develop a quality project in 3 years, especially if you work with plants, and I work with a model that takes 3 months to grow. If you work with species that are crops, they will take much longer. And this means that your let's say results will not be the same if you really have a very big time pressure. So my work in the US changed a little bit. I still worked on signaling, which I was doing before, but I started to work with the clock, responses to environment, how plants perceive the world that is around them, how they measure time, how this is somehow controlled at the level of transcription, so genes are expressed at the chromatin level, and then also how proteins are regulated. But what I wanted to say, and although we are in Europe, I think it's my duty to give this testimony, is that I think in the US there is a much more positive attitude towards science. I felt always a very encouraging environment, and sometimes in Europe this is not so clear, especially when you are starting your career. So this was my trajectory, and now I'm a career track fellow. So actually I came back to Europe. It was I considered not coming back. For a while I had an offer to stay in the US, But then I thought, well, let's try again. I am actually an example of Professor Mariano Gago's approach that, you can really have very good, talented Portuguese scientists that do a good job in Portugal, but they will also do a good job anywhere else in the world. And I wanted to give back what I was already received. I wanted to contribute to science progress in my continent. So I came to Spain. I applied for a Ramón y Cajal. I didn't know anybody in Spain. I just applied it and I got it. And then I said, okay, Barcelona, what's wrong with Barcelona? Let's just go there. And so after that, I got some funding from the European Commission. And last year I was awarded an A in the ERC Consolidator grant, but unfortunately I didn't manage to, ERC funding should be increased, because then I could have, my 2 million euros, but what can you do? So it was also very good experience. Now what I do in Spain, I'm still working on basic research, but I've changed a little bit. I work with the Arabidopsis, that's the little draw I did over there, and I still work with the clock regulation. So I work with the 24-hour perception by plants, but I developed a new project, which is to understand what RNA that does not code for any protein does. And that was my original idea for the ERC call. So this is what I have done as a young career scientist. But I've been thinking, what have been the problems that I have been facing every day while being a Ramón y Cajal fellow in Spain? And this is what I want to share with you. So actually, the Ramón y Cajal is a wonderful program that in Spain has the advantage that it was not interrupted like the Ciencia was in Portugal. So there are Ramón y Cajal for many years already. And actually, this program has attracted a lot of talent. I am one of these examples. However, the problem is when it was designed, the economic situation allowed for many of these scientists to get a position at the end of their Ramón y Cajal, and nowadays this is not the case. It seems to be improving, but still we are not at the levels we were some years ago. And one thing I've noticed is the funding agencies. I will talk about Spain because this is what I know. Probably this occurs in other countries. I know in Portugal it doesn't occur, but in my work every day, it does limit me a little bit, the fact that because we are not a permanent position scientists applying for projects, it's always limited by the extension of your contract. And if you want to apply for something that will overgo the time of your contract, you are not allowed in many cases to do so. So that is a problem. And when you have to compete at the European level, I think this damages the young career scientists in Spain if you compare with other European countries. Also, getting students is a problem because it's always calculated the years of the PhD students you will have, whether they are still within your contract. So if you have a tenure track of 5 years, you don't need to be a genius in mathematics to see that, there won't be a lot of opportunities to get students. So what I think is important to do is to consider tenure track programs as real tenure track. There has to be something at the end of the track. People have to be evaluated, and also, if we do not do so, the best people will leave because they will have the chance to do so. What could be improved? Okay, these are some ideas. Maybe they don't make a lot of sense, but I've been thinking about them. Why can't we have a European research career that is independent of government changes in the countries? Something that people could follow a track and they know where they are in their career. Also to set up calls for young researchers that are not just ERCs. Excellence is great, but excellence has to be nurtured, and excellence needs funding. And sometimes little funding does a lot for achieving bigger funding and bigger grants. And then promote the networks among young researchers and define what is a young researcher. Do we count the time of PhD or time of independence due to the problems that we have today in finding permanent positions? And what I also want to say is that investing in young researchers is a good investment because nobody more than us wants to be successful. I'm pretty sure that all the young researchers want to be successful. So, as a concluding remark, I want to say this: invest in us because we are a good investment. We will renew the scientific talent in Europe, and we will expand already the scientific excellence that we have here. And then I want to finish with this, which is a little bit my motto: we should never give up because things can always change. Thank you.